It always comes to this. More nice So there, guys, back again to do yet again another tattoo progress update. Where I last left off, I showed off the bit of work that Rick and I had done on the left sleeve. Didn't get a whole ton done this time, but doesn't really matter because we'll get there in the end, and any little bit that we do at this point is more or less staying how we put it. So that's the benefit of, again, second and third passes on things, and I've gone over that ad nauseum. I've very clearly had another session since. The astute will know exactly what, obviously, with my thumbnail kind of giving it away. I had a double session with Terry yesterday, and that we did all of the thorns on my arm and up onto my shoulder here, and then we also did this eye up here again. So we started off just doing the thorns. Took a little while to get going, also to figure out which colors we wanted to use. There's two different types of yellow in there, and power brown, believe it or not, to give it that more of like a kind of realistic gold shine to it. There's a medium tone yellow and a light yellow. Again, all the inks we use are fusion based, and there's really no point in even mentioning the names of individual inks anymore, because by now I've showed off enough of them that it should just be apparent that they all work, and there's no real reason to put one ahead of another. There are a few colors that seem to do better than others, but for the most part they all work for whatever purpose you are asking of them. We got a new player on the team here where one of my favorite colors that we put over black has been this turquoise color. It's covered as well as any red that we've used, and so far most of the reds have been the best for coverage over black. Yellows are really strong too. As you can see, they really did their trick. Now, whether you like those colors or not is another question, right? So just because you can use certain colors doesn't mean you're going to want to, obviously. But in my experience, the strongest at covering black has been all shades of red and all shades of yellow. Greens are good too, but the thing is when you start using greens and blues, like this turquoise here wouldn't be as contrasting to the black if not for the fact that we had put red down before. So, for example, if this was still blackout background here, the turquoise would not be showing off the way that it gets to because of all the work we've done prior to kind of embolden the coloration. And again, the black line that was done over black there gets to stand out apart from the red background that we've done over the black. So all of these things work together in conjunction to create the more striking image. Whereas if you just do one tone, it's not that different from the black, and it doesn't really show off that much. And that doesn't really matter what color it is. This is why you have to use multiple tones, and that's typical in any cover-up. But for some reason, when we're talking about blackout, conventional cover-up methodology seems to go out the window. It's like people can't get their mind around it. But realistically, it's probably an easier thing to do because you're covering the same tone everywhere rather than all different tones all over the place. But I've gone off on that a number of times already. So it just is what it is. People will either understand or not. We got quite a bit done though. I like the color of the thorns. It's taking me a minute to get used to. You know, you're used to looking at something for a certain amount of time, a certain way. It's going to take you a minute to get used to. But I think it was the play. Once the roses were colored, especially, those thorns had to go next. It was just like a matter of time thing. And we still have to get the ones on my neck here, but I think there's only two. There's one here, and then there's one over here. So that's going to be a fairly quick little adjustment. It's probably only going to take us 20 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that. Once we figure out the colors, it always speeds up. The first one that we did took the longest by far because it was like Terry was figuring out where he wanted to put the brown and where the highlight was going, and then picking up pace as you go. We start from the bottom and climb up. That's got to be, I don't even know how many times I've had my elbows tattooed. Like, they've been tattooed so many times. You can see there's ink stuck in my elbow right now. And that callus that I've got there it's impenetrable. I've got it on both arms. Like, it's pretty crazy. Like, I don't think that you could find more saturated elbows, honest to God, that anywhere on the planet. And that fucking dry skin callus, it just does not want to go away. I've gone at it with a loofah. I've washed it with some coarse soaps to try and break it up, and I've tried scraping it off, and it doesn't go away. So I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to get my elbows to be perfect. I don't know how much it really bothers me, but whenever we're in the area, we're always hitting it again. So it'll always be a thing, and like, it just doesn't want to happen. So it's, again, like, I've had people who are like, when are you going to touch up your elbow? It's like, I've touched up my elbows more than probably anyone who's ever lived, but every human's body has a certain spot that just doesn't seem to take. It's like, I was talking to Lily Lou just recently, and obviously this is a given, but Lily Lou goes barefoot, and so even though he had tried to, moisturize the soles of his feet enough, or their feet enough, to tattoo their soles really well, made them as soft as possible, they still just will not take ink no matter what. Like, it just won't work. And contrary to popular belief, there are people who can keep sole tattoos. It wouldn't be me. My soles would not take ink very well either. The rougher your skin is, the worse it takes, the worse it shows through. At the very least, shows through, because there's probably some questionable amount of ink in my elbows, for example, but it's just with that coarse top layer, like, whatever you put underneath of that it's going to dull out everything you put, so you're not going to have that really clear look that you would get over a nice soft canvas. But it is what it is. These are just the issues you run into, right, when you're working on something and there's also some possibility the more I tattoo it, the worse it's going to get too, which is another thing that I've thought is, like, it may be counterproductive at this point to continue tattooing that and continue damaging the skin, drying it out, where it's already not wanting to show through. Not to say that I'm throwing my towel in, because we're just going to hit it anyway, but it's been a pain in the ass for a long time. Anyway, I have another session with Terry coming up next week. We're going to do the thorns on my neck, and we have some more work to do on this sleeve. Not going to quite get into what we're doing, but it's going to be a pretty dramatic change. I think people will be mostly in favor of it, and it's in keeping with kind of what I've already been showing and proving is, you can add more layers to the layers that are there. So I think people would find it hard to believe that, you could bring black back after you've covered it with color, but it comes in more striking, like the way that this eye looks right now, and obviously is fresh, but it's bolder than it was the first time, and there's more details in there now. But what's impressive about this is that if we had have just done this tattoo straight black on black, it wouldn't have been as dark as it gets to be because it was done over red on black. So the red here acts as a primer, almost like we lightened it, we changed the tone of it, and then we can come back in with the dark black again, and it gets to show. We did the same thing early on here when we framed the brain. That was one of the first times that I had done that, and I knew that it would work, and it stayed. That halo of black is blacker than the black that was there before, but that's only really because there were layers there that we covered. In other words, if we had have done straight black on black with any of these kinds of things, it would be duller unless you separate it from the background once again. And there's been all kinds of layering effects that have been achieved that you couldn't get in a single session. It's sometimes when I'm describing it, it's hard for me to even remember all the steps that came into it, and that's honestly part of why I make these vlogs. It's like, this is informative to anyone out there who wants to do a similar style, to approach it from a very patience mindset. You can only achieve certain effects with a lot of work. A lot of work over a long period of time, not in one day. So, as a great example of that, I'm going to use this eye again just because it's so clear right now. And so fresh in mind. This tattoo could not be done in a session over blackout. Even if you did do it, it wouldn't stay the way that it does because of the layering that we've done. It can only be done because there have been multiple layers of red put down that needed to each heal on their own time over a healed blackout, and then we come in with the fresh blast over top of that. And then it's now been passed twice. And so you see that the white is much stronger, the red is much stronger, the red is bolder, the black is bolder. All of that is achievable through layering. It's why I took such great offense to that stupid fucking white on black blackout in a single session hand tattoo, where when you're putting that much saturation into something in one session, it's bound to heal like shit. And I don't give a fuck if it trended or not. When those things happen, it's reductive. It's bringing the industry backwards, whereas everything that I've tried to do with this channel has been, I'm trying to explain to people a rational kind of productive, useful way to approach tattooing in a way that you can get what you want in a realistic manner, and you don't have, this I sat down and got a sleeve in a session mentality. That stuff is toxic. It's not realistic, and then people go into tattoo studios and they ask for these things, and most people are not going to fuck you up like that. They're not going to do it no matter how much you want. So, you can't do that. That tattoo should not have been done, and it's still aggravating me a little bit because those examples are counter to the examples that I provided. And I'm not saying there is not more than one way to cook an omelet or anything like that. There's always going to be different ways to do things, especially in an industry like this where people mostly teach themselves. But there's certain things that you shouldn't do. That is a guaranteed scar, that white over top of fresh black in a single session, and it's guaranteed to heal like shit. And not only that, it's going to be one of those things that, because people see that doesn't work very well, they'll blame the medium of tattooing over black, and they won't look for, like, if they see one bad example, it kind of takes away from all the good examples that have been put forth. So when I get upset about those things, it's rightfully so. It's not me needing to chill. It's fucking terrible. That stuff is terrible. Any of that stuff is terrible. And it's almost always that stuff that trends. So it's the same thing that I think some, good body mod artists feel when they see tongue splits that are way too deep, or some body mods that are done that are clearly dangerous. Those things are a poor reflection on the entire industry. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing good work in your own lane, it will bring you down with it. all of a sudden, if you see those that shitty tattoo that was done, for example, and it does poorly, then it makes everything that we're doing here at this shop seem like we're selling snake oil, or the results can't last because that shitty methodology failed. Whereas, the marathon mindset that I've been pushing, and almost like a work with your artist, hands on, and be patient and get there in time. That message is not popular because people don't want to take the time that it takes. Whereas things like that, where they see it happen so fast, they're like, I'm going in to get one of those. And it's just bad. It's corrosive. It's gross. It shouldn't be. But those things always trend. So it is what it is. Can't stop that. And especially in the instant gratification era that we're in, people are always going to gravitate to less work, more reward. So, anyway, I'm sounding like an old man now, but it does deeply annoy me. So I'll show this off here. I don't think this is going to fade back too much this time. There's a lot more white in there. There's a lot more black in there, and obviously more red. And then we have the golden thorns, which I'm sure won't be to everyone's taste. But I think next week's session will provide some more context for all of this. And I can't wait to show it off. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.